All righty. Well, then, good morning. My name is Mario Gangemi, and I am the chair of the MDTA Capital Committee and conducting this morning's meeting. Therefore, I call the meeting to order at 9:08 a.m. In accordance with the live streaming law, this meeting is being conducted via video conference and live stream on the MDTA Capital Committee page. I do remind all members of the Capital Committee to have their video active during the entirety of the meeting. I do know that Member Enzer is having technical difficulties and is on the phone. And for the record, Member Gaines is unable to attend, but we do have a quorum, so we can proceed. We do ask that in order to minimize background noise during this meeting, that everyone on the line mute your phones or your computers. And anyone who is presenting or answering a question to turn your video and audio on when speaking. And then when done, you can turn your video off and put your audio back on mute. There are no members of the public or elected officials or media that have pre-registered to comment. So we can move on to agenda item number 1, which is the approval of the open session meeting minutes of November 15th, 2022. I will entertain
Move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Member Cox moves for approval. I need a second.
Second.
All right, second from Member Enzer. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right, that was all three of us, so that we now can move on to Mr. Wedemeyer, who's been patiently waiting to talk about the Kane Street conveyance. So thank you.
Good morning, members. This morning I'm seeking the Capital Committee's approval on selling a piece of property that we acquired back in 2015 for use by the Canton Development Company / Canton Railroad. It was back in 2015, it was thought that Canton Railroad was a quasi-public entity, which since that time we've seen clarity from the MDTA Attorney General's office that they are not a quasi-public company. It's just that MDTA owns 100% of their stock as an effort for economic development. And so what we propose to do is sell the property back to Canton Railroad for their use as a rail yard. This would be done at a fair market value because they are not a quasi-public entity. So what we're doing is seeking your approval to sell Canton Development Corp., Canton Railroad, this 8-acre parcel at fair market value. I am currently getting it appraised, so I don't have a value for you right now, but I should have a value for you by the time we go to the full board meeting. Does anybody have any questions?
Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman.
Go for it.
Okay, John, appreciate you working on this as a representative from MDTA to the Canton board. We've been working on this for some time. Appreciate you facilitating it and getting it accomplished. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I move for approval, Mr. Chairman.
Do we need approval at this meeting, or we just need to wait for the appraisal?
I'm seeking your approval to convey it. So
okay.
At fair market value.
Okay, all right, sounds good. And Member Cox, I think, just moved, so I just need a second.
Second.
All right, second from Member Enzer. Any further discussion? All right, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. All right, that was all three of us, so thank you very much.
Thank you.
Now we can move on to the Bay Bridge. All right, Mr. Harkness, Happy New Year.
Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Jim.
Mr. Chair.
Happy New Year.
Members, how are you all doing? So today, I'm going to give you a little update on on two of our projects, actually, at the Bay Bridge. We collectively refer to them as the Automated Lane Closure System, or ALCS. We have been working on these two projects for a few years, and we are now through the phase where we have completed the physical construction on all of the new equipment, and we are entered into the testing phase and more recently into a partial deployment phase. So we figured this was a good time to sort of kind of detail these projects a little bit for you and give you a little bit of a sense of what this system is about, benefits, and then, you know, a little bit of how it will look and operate. And so, you know, with this project, we've sort of been bringing things online for quite a bit of time. And if you've gone over the bridge, you would have seen some of the new gantries with large lane use control signals, the large green arrows or the large red X's. You would have seen some new dynamic message signs. And of course, you also probably would have noticed some of the gates that are out there. So as of last month, just before the holidays, we were able to start to make use and deployment of the gates portion of this system, as well as the illuminated pavement markings. So that was kind of the splash, and we sort of did that in a phased approach, you know, sort of just getting people used to it, motorists used to it, our operations and our law enforcement folks used to this system. So we did a partial deployment on the eastern shore only. That was the first contract that was out the door, so they were a little bit further along than the Western Shore. So we've selected, you know, part devices that were part of the most frequently used plan. We call it Ops Plan A, which is the plan that is used for running contraflow on the westbound bridge when it's needed in the PMs, or if construction's going on, something's going on. So that was our plan of attack, was to get that out first, get people used to it. While we're doing that, we have continued to use drums that you would have normally seen, arrow panel that you would have normally seen, you know, for the past decades. So that is still familiar to the motorists. And then basically behind that, we deploy the gates. Above that, we deploy the red X's, the lane use controls, to get people advanced notice, get them moving over. So with that sort of introduction, I'll just start to walk through my presentation. So slide 2. Just a little background on this. Again, our Bay Bridge is actually 2 spans, the first of which was the 2-lane span that opened in 1952 and referred to as the eastbound bridge. Then we have the other structure, which we refer to as westbound bridge, opened in 1973, and it's 3 lanes. So with 5 lanes on our bridge, that is less, 1 lane less than US 301 has on, and US 50 has on either side of the bridge, which is 6 lanes on the approaches. So that means we have to try to operate the bridge in order to balance that demand and increase capacity. So we implement 2-way traffic on the westbound bridge during periods where we have high demand, or if incidents are causing an issue. It gives us the flexibility to shift the capacity around on the bridge. Slide 3 sort of details this graphically for you. The top portion of this slide is the normal traffic, if you will, with 3 lanes on that westbound bridge and 2 lanes operating on the eastbound bridge. And then at the lower portion of that slide, it shows that when we need to run contraflow or 2-way traffic, eastbound traffic is diverted onto that westbound bridge and utilizes lane 3, as we refer to it, in order to get that extra capacity across the bay. So moving on to slide 4. This sort of gives you an overview of both projects. So the Eastern Shore project is at the top. Bottom right shows the Western Shore. What we tried to depict here were the the gantries that hold the lane use control signals. So we've added a number of gantries. But basically, the scope of this project, we wanted a safer working environment for our workers that have been out there deploying the current contraflow system by manual, setting the drums every day, maybe sometimes multiple times a day, being next to live traffic. We wanted a system that could increase the safety for those folks by kind of removing them from some of that hazardous environment. We also wanted a system that could decrease response times for incidents. So if something occurs, the ability to remotely implement a change in the lane use, it was one of the goals of the scope of this contract. We also wanted to provide motorists with advance notice of what lanes we're doing up on the bridge. So we took our existing gantry system and we have expanded it in each direction. So we now cover 1.5 miles from the crossover on the eastern shore, 2.5 miles on the western shore from the crossover. So we've gotten the ability to message to the motorist. We've expanded that a bit. We also think the system will increase the reliability of the trips for the folks, and it will eventually lead to less setup and changeover time for when we do lane closures and two-way operations. So moving on to slide 5 now, just kind of highlighting the devices, the elements that make up this project. Obviously, the bridge has utilized lane use control signals for quite some time. Originally, they were mounted on span wires on the bridge and then converted to gantries. And of course, we had a few gantries on each approach roadway. So we've expanded that, as I said, and now these two projects, we are adding 100 lane use signals on the approaches. So those, not only are they new lane use controls, but they're also larger. So they're significantly larger. They're double the size of the ones that we have on the bridge. And so, we use those obviously to display the green arrows, the red X's, yellow X's, and in some places we needed to message about auxiliary lanes. So we, as you can see in the upper right, we have messages that say exit only, kind of letting people know they can use that lane in order to exit on either shore. Additionally, we've added some dynamic message signs, DMSs. These are full matrix, full color, so we can sort of make these display the signs that you see on the lower left here. So these message boards will replicate the warning signs, that the static warning signs we would otherwise use, but they give us the flexibility to make them large, and we can change the display based on the need and what is happening in a particular operations plan. So I think that was also just noteworthy that this is the first time in the state of Maryland that we are utilizing these full color dynamic message signs. Move to slide 6 and some additional project elements. On the left here, you can see we have these illuminated pavement markers. They essentially are these strips of LEDs. They are installed in the roadway next to the pavement markings as they run parallel in the lane. And then these will actually help you divert out of the lane and into the crossovers. And as you can see in this picture, this is as if you were a contraflow or vehicle and we're trying to get you to the right. You can see the DMS and the green arrow. So we want you to get over there. So these lane use, the illuminated pavement markers will help to guide you over there. And then on the right, we have the horizontal swing gates, which is a big piece of this system. These will have varying lengths because sometimes they need to close just one lane, and then in other scenarios they need to close two lanes. So sometimes, so you'll see gates, and it's barely visible on the right, lower right picture here, that there's a gate in the foreground, and in the background there's a second gate. So the gate in the foreground is the longer gate that would be used to close two lanes. The gate in the background, which is barely visible, would be used to close just one lane. We have installed 46 gates for the two projects, and then we have 4 long runs of these illuminated pavement markers. So if you think about the movements in each crossover, there's 2 in each crossover. So with 2 crossovers, that's 4 runs of these illuminated pavement markers. All right, so moving on to slide 7, we'll begin sort of walking through the system as if you were a westbound vehicle approaching the bridge, and the bridge would be in 2-way operations. So we'd have eastbound vehicles using lane 3 of the bridge, and so we'll just sort of walk through the devices and what you'll see out there. So the first thing you'll come across is a large DMS, and that will be displaying that the left lane's closed and sort of reminding folks to obey the upcoming lane use control signals. Moving on to slide 8, we'll then come to the first gantry. This is a new gantry. This gantry will introduce a yellow X over that closed lane, or the soon to be closed lane. It will then display both the green arrows in lanes, what we call 1 and 2 there. And then, as you can see on the far right, it has that message for exit only, as there is this is a 4-lane section with an auxiliary lane on the right that you can exit. So we want to make sure people understand they're still allowed to use that lane when we have other lane closure scenarios in play here. Moving on to 9, we moved down the roadway a bit, and now we've introduced a red X over lane 3, and we've maintained the 2 green arrows and the exit only message. And so this is the first of the red arrows that motorists would have seen. As you move further, we've now gone past the overpass for Maryland 8. And we've introduced a sign, a cantilever sign, just with flashing beacons. It's a big warning sign that letting people know 2-way traffic is in operation on the bridge. So we are just giving them that safety reminder. And again, they shouldn't be in the left lane at this point. As you can see, if you can make it out downstream, you can see another gantry. There's a red X there as well. And that would be, I think, the second red X they would have seen. Again, I think this was the gantry that was visible in that last photo. So here it is a little closer. We have on the left one of our full color DMS displaying the fact again that there's 2-way traffic in effect. The red X over lane 3 and the 2 green arrows. Now we're walk down, and we're now in the middle of the gates where the gates will have been deployed. So the lane is physically closed now. So those red X's over the lanes were actually closing the lane, and now we've actually put a physical device over the lane in order to reinforce that it is in fact closed. So you can see here we have the horizontal swing gate closing this lane. In the background, you can see another gantry displaying the DMS showing that it's 2-way traffic. You'll now see 2 red X's, and that the furthest left red X is actually over the crossover itself, just making sure that people understand that's closed, as well as lane 3 is closed, and then showing the 2 remaining lanes that are open for travel. In this picture, you also note that there are drums installed, and this is a condition that we will intentionally have continued to deploy these drums as well as the gate and automated lane closure system, and that's just part of our introduction of the system to the motorists, so that they continue to see the drums, which they've seen again for decades. So that's familiar to them, and then introducing the new elements of this project, sort of in conjunction with the former elements. So those drums will be there. Ops will continue to deploy them, and then at a time where we've sort of gotten comfortable with deploying the system ourselves, where we feel like the motorists understand the system is in effect, we'll start to look to remove the old drum devices. All right, so moving on to slide 13, what we're depicting here is now you are a vehicle that is traveling contraflow. And so you've come off the bridge, you're now on the approach roadway, you're still contraflow. And as so you can see here that the left two lane use controls will be displaying the red X. We don't want you traveling in those lanes. Those are for westbound. So you have the green arrow over your lane of travel. And then we have another one, DMS, the full color DMS, showing that we want you to use the crossover ahead. So we're going to have you shift off to the right. And then this last photo is as we depicted before. You're at the crossover, you're going to be moving over. So we highlighted that we have the illuminated pavement markers, we have another DMS and the lane use control above the crossover lane. So that's sort of the walkthrough. In terms of the system, we are working on completing the integration and testing of all the new devices on the Western Shore, and we'll be doing that this month in January. So then once we have those devices all integrated and tested, that would complete the second half of Ops Plan A. Again, Ops Plan A is the two-way on the westbound bridge. That's, again, the most frequently used plan, so that's what we're rolling out first. So we'll have a period where we'll be able to introduce all the new devices on the Western Shore. After that, the team will then continue to work on integrating and testing the remaining devices that cover the other operations plans that this system addresses, and those are less frequently used, mostly seen at overnight, based on what work we're performing on the bridge. Operations, again, is using this system. We'll be getting comfortable deploying it, communicating about it, getting feedback, giving us feedback so we can make adjustments as needed. And basically the schedule lays out so that by well before summer travel season, we will have this system completely stood up and should have everyone comfortable with it by that time. So it's my last thing. So any questions, I'll take them now.
Member Cox is ready to jump in.
Thank you very much, Jim. I think, obviously safety in mind has been, on the minds, obviously, even far back when I was first in the legislature and all this started and the Second Bay Bridge was opened, and then obviously with the diversion of traffic. But this is a long time coming. I appreciate the efforts and the ability, obviously, to get this accomplished. I mean, I'm sure it's not any easy task, and I'm sure the traveling motorists will be very happy once this is in total operation. Thanks again for all your efforts and your team.
And thanks for this overview. That was the way you drove us through the process was helpful. So thank you very much for that. I could picture myself being there.
Hey,
Fortunately, Jim, Will didn't have anything to do with this, so we were very, very. No,
Chairman, that's what I was
thanks,
coming
Will.
on
Thanks, Will.
camera for. I wanted to compliment Jim and his team. Last night we had the quarterly Bay Bridge Reconstruction Advisory Group meeting, and otherwise known as the BRAG meeting. All of those are live streamed if you want to go back and watch anything on it. But Jim gives at each one of those meetings an update on our major projects, and he provided a detailed update on these two contracts and overall the lane closure system as a whole. And some of the BRAG members complimented us on the phasing approach that we've used, and in particular, starting on the Eastern Shore, because, it just demonstrates we have a good understanding of the traffic patterns and how that was a good way to begin to condition motorists to the system, but do it in a safe way with this phased rollout. So just want to thank Jim for his continued thoughtfulness in how we do our projects. A lot goes into the deployment to make sure that they're safe and they function well. There were a lot of folks that were very worried about the first day of the system and with the barrels out, are we going to have gates getting hit and all this kind of stuff? And so far we've had safe deployments. The key thing that we did in our public outreach, I and Jim, we've both done some media efforts getting out in TV to make sure the public is aware of the system and the phasing and how we're planning to deploy it. But one of the really key messages is to pay attention to those overhead lane use controls, that when you see the yellow X, it's time to get out of the lane. And when it's red, you should already be out. We've already been working with the MDTA police to enforce that. We stopped by the duty desk last night and had a conversation about some of the folks that they had pulled over yesterday for riding in the red X. So that's an enforcement activity that we're going to really emphasize to make sure that the system is working as planned. But again, just hats off to Jim and his team on the overall project, delivering it on time with the launch on the Eastern Shore, making sure that we have it ready for next summer, and just the rollout the way that we've done it in a safe way. And so far, so good, with having a safe deployment. So just wanted to compliment him and his team and let the members know that the BRAG who live in that area and deal with it day to day, they gave us some kind words last night.
Nice.
Thanks, Ben.
Nice. Good work. Good work. Well, I think that concludes our meeting. Unless anybody has something else they want to add, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved, Mr. Chairman.
All right. I need a second.
Second?
All right. I have a second. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. All right. That was all three of us.
Have a safe New Year.
Yes. Thank you very much. Will, I will see you later.
Yeah. See you in a bit.
All right. Bye.